tough too. There's a lot of roads you could go on to kind of for the problem. There's lots of things out there that are doing absolutely great work. It was life-changing from the first moment I heard that it was going to happen. Like when I get a phone call from my promoter to say, Manny Pacquiao wants to fight you. Look, I never really thought about that. I guess I always had teaching to go back to. And then when Bullyproof started, it was not... Basically, that's what you're doing. You're putting your body on the line all the time. So it takes courage to do that in front of an audience as well.
So, Jeff, I want to say welcome to the Career Clarity podcast. It's great to have you on here with me today.
No worries. Thanks for having me, Ryan.
Excellent. Look, I'm always appreciative of individuals sharing their time and really just sharing their story, and about career transition, about figuring out what on earth do we do in your case once we step out of the ring, certainly on a full-time basis. So I'm looking forward to getting stuck into this chat today.
Yes, sure.
Well, look, for those who are joining us today, give us the infomercial about yourself.
Look, I'm a former bullied school kid, really, but I don't really kind of like that title too much. But look, I was a school kid, went through some problems, and I became a teacher because I love my school work a lot. And then I got into boxing at a late age and become a world boxing champion. And now, these days, I'm working hard to solve the problem of bullying in schools.
Right. So there's going to be a lot for us to delve into there. Talk to me a little bit about your current focus, this current mission on solving bullying in school. I mean, that's huge. Just about everybody can relate to that, I think.
Yeah, it's tough too. There's a lot of roads you could go on to kind of for the problem. There's lots of things out there that are doing absolutely great work in this space, and but what we're kind of creating is education around this issue and how basically people deal with conflict, day-to-day conflict, which can turn into bullying if it's not managed correctly. So we're trying to teach kids step by step of how you can manage certain social situations and how to treat people better so that hopefully bullying doesn't happen to them.
Yeah. So, and sort of how do you do that? So are you in schools? Are you online? What's that program structure?
Yeah. Well, I go talk at a lot of schools that have the program in there, but we have a learning platform where the teachers will teach lesson plans based on specific things in those lessons to kind of go through the teachers because they're the mentors for the kids. I can't multiply myself and put myself in everywhere as well. So, and I know there's a lot better teachers out there than I am, and we can use those teachers as basically people that can basically get the word out and change the attitude of these kids.
Spokespeople, ambassadors, champions,
Exactly.
you say, yeah, getting out there. I mean, so for you, it you opened up. I asked, for that infomercial, you started off by, saying you were, bullied as a kid. How did that? I've never spoken to someone who would openly do that, and it's always something where, I guess, as I take myself back, whilst I hope I never was a bully, there are certainly some issues where I start to think, yeah, how did those friends turn out who I knew were bullied, who I knew impacted? How did it shape you?
Look, I can remember feeling quite depressed at some stages at school. Normally, my main probably problem area was grade 8, grade 9 were probably the trouble times for me, and where I was trying to find my feet in a high school that was, 10 times the size, maybe even more, bigger than my primary school that I went to. So there was a lot of potential conflict situations that could happen at that school for me.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess as a bit of a segue, how did that, or did that shape your entry into boxing as a way of defense, or are they not related?
Kind of, kind of. In a way, it does because I did get into a couple of fights at schools where I didn't go too well either. I'm not, but I knew going out later as an adult, where you go out nightclubbing, things like that. I was
Right.
like, I'm going to have to learn to protect myself and protect my girlfriend that I was going out with, which is now my wife. So and to protect her as well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so tell me a bit then about, because obviously you're, you know, famous in the boxing context. So I'm curious then as to what you were doing as a kid. So growing up, was sport something, or how important was sport to you as you were growing up?
Oh, that's a big one really, because sport was what I wanted to do for a living. Sport was it. That was the end goal, right? It was a dream for a 6 year old kid when I started to think about it, and I started playing soccer or football
Yep.
and I played
Say
that for 12 years.
we can go with football. That's good for me. Oh, so football was your original sort of the sport. That's where you really wanted to go as far as you could.
It is, but wasn't good enough, unfortunately.
No, no. Well, so during that phase, so you're wanting to be pushing football, finding out you weren't good enough, or figuring, did you figure that out yourself, or was it very much a trial? You're not in, you're not in, you're not in.
It took a long time, and I tried for many years to get better and better at the sport, but I just kept getting knocked back and not getting selected for certain things. So I was just like, got to that basically 18 years old mark, and was like, I should have been selected or in teams by now, and
Yeah.
maybe it's time to start doing something else.
And so, what did you do for that something else?
That was I went to the martial arts gym. That's what I did, just to kind of learn some self defense stuff, not as a sport. And
Hmm.
that's where I found boxing at that gym.
Ah, okay. And so this was a bit to do with, I guess, at 18 going out. But it's funny.
Yeah,
I had a conversation this morning with I guess looking forward to chatting with you with a guy who's an amateur boxer,
yeah,
and talking about learning as a kid versus perhaps learning as an adult as you start to go out and not compete, but start to go out in clubs and things like that. And you know, to what extent should you have some form of self defense? And it sounds like that was something that inspired you to get into it.
yeah. Like I knew I needed to kind of learn some basic kind of stuff so I could protect myself and my partner at the time. But um, definitely there was talent there, and my
Yeah,
coach realized it and said it to me straight away, and that's
okay,
what I grabbed onto and just
yeah.
worked hard.
I've got to ask Jeff, where were you going out?
The valley, the city.
Like, remind me never to be going there. It sounds quite dangerous unless you're next to me.
It's dangerous for everyone. What are you talking about? Every valley and city that places have, it's always there's always risks out there because there's risks of pissing someone off and them hitting you. So
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you say the wrong thing or look at someone wrong, sometimes going out, you become a target.
yeah. Look, unfortunately, it is very true. So help me understand then. So we're looking at this football path. That's not turning out. You've figured that piece out. You then the social side, the martial arts. What were you going to be doing instead of football? What was this other career path, or that you were then going to move towards?
Yeah, that's where I had my backup plan
Okay.
because during the end of school, from basically grade 11, grade 12, I had some awesome teachers and I loved my HB classes. And of course, I wanted to do sport for a living, but if I couldn't do sport for a living as a professional sports person, I wanted to be teaching sport. I just wanted to be involved in that aspect in one way or another. And being a HBE teacher at secondary school was the goal.
Right. So, so basically, health, physical education. That as a you would became that primary school, secondary school. What was the focus?
I was secondary school trained, but I ended up doing majority of my teaching in a primary school. So
Okay.
as a classroom teacher, really. So, but I really did enjoy that as well. So I found something that I actually did enjoy.
Yeah, which is great, and I think a lot of this is about finding finding those moments or finding those things that you enjoy and that you're good at as well. When you think about the teaching aspect, what is it that you enjoyed the most?
I guess being able to, increase the knowledge of kids when they have that aha moment where they're like, oh, like that you teach them something that they didn't know. That's a pretty cool feeling to be able to do that. Us as parent, if you're a parent, you know all about that. When you have kids and you can teach them something, you're like, this makes you feel good that you're teaching them the right things, and
Yeah,
that's what you do as a teacher.
yeah, yeah.
You
That's
basically got a classroom of you, kind of your own children, even though they're not. But in a way, you think of them as that sometimes.
yeah. Well, I'd say as an individual, if you if you're in that room and you're bonding with those children in the sense that they are like your own children, then that probably is going to be a good way to making you a good teacher.
Yeah,
They were certainly lucky to have you. So
yeah.
I'm interested now then on the boxing side that starts to emerge. You started at 18. Is that early? Is that late for someone to get to where you're going?
Yeah, it's very late. There's not many boxers, I think, in the past that have started too late and been quite successful at it. But I think it was pretty crazy that I was able to pick up boxing so quickly. Even though I feel like it's a sport that doesn't, you don't need to be super good at it as a kid to then learn it. I think it's a lot of natural ability in the sport as well, and having a good coach. That's the key of it.
Yeah. Well, how important do you think? Certainly early on, how important was having a good coach for you?
Yeah, look, you needed to learn on the fly, right? I needed to be doing it, and like I was training to have boxing matches and kind of learning at the same time. And I used my amateur boxing career as a learning curve of the. I needed the losses. I tell kids that in my talks that I go do, I had 18 losses in my amateur boxing career, and I needed every single one of those. And they're the times that I learnt the most in my boxing career, is the times that I lost, not the times that I won.
And look, it is difficult, I think, for everyone to recognize that losing is a great platform or opportunity to learn. And like you said, without losing, I talk about it a lot. Um, but recognizing what a loss is doesn't mean it's failed. Doesn't mean you should be finishing. I mean, so going through 18 losses, I'm assuming you had more wins than losses as an amateur. But correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. I think by calculation, I think it's 48 wins and 18 losses.
yeah. And look, it was a good amateur career for you. I'm interested. Was there a specific moment when you realized, hold on, I'm good at this, and
Mm.
there is a future?
Yeah. Look, I guess straight away I knew I was reasonably good at it because I did pretty well, and I went just straight into the state titles for my second and third boxing matches, and
Okay.
ended up winning the state titles. So my
Yeah.
fourth match, I was at the nationals, so it was a baptism of fire, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That's meteoric.
I,
In terms
I
of
don't think they even allow that anymore, though. You're not allowed to have that little of matches before you can go to a national level because it's dangerous. Like
yeah.
you could potentially get hurt. But I
Mm.
was lucky enough that those rules, I guess, didn't exist at that time, and I was able to shock the guys. But I didn't. My first match at nationals, though, I did lose, but I lost against the eventual champion. So
Okay. Okay. So it's good. It's a noble defeat.
yeah, it would have been a noble defeat losing against any of the state champions.
Yes. Yeah. Very true. So getting that far, well, in such a short time, that would have been relatively. At what point did you then really start dreaming about Olympics, about national, about really pursuing?
I was in that goal from the start. That's what I got inspired from my coach to basically do that. He said, in the next 4 years, I'm going to get you to the London Olympic Games. So he had that vision basically straight away, thinking, you're good enough, I'll get you there. And I was like, okay, I believe you. Let's do it.
Yeah. What did he What did he have to say or do to help you believe that? I mean, coming in off the street, that's pretty powerful.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just the words, I guess words are powerful, right? And if someone says to you, I believe in you, I think that you can be a really good person at this particular thing. You're like, if you believe in me, um, why shouldn't I believe in that as well? Like it's just having trust, right? And I had trust in his knowledge in the sport, and I was like, okay, let's do this.
Right. Yeah. That trust, he got it, or he gained it from you quickly. He gained your trust quickly. So, what did you have to change? Because you're at university this time. You're
Hmm.
on the path to being a teacher. What was your what had to change in your routine, in your focus to make that Olympic dream happen?
Look, I guess it was hard. University and doing the sport at the same time was tricky, but I was able to do it. Thankfully, university can be flexible at times and make you do less classes through the year. So I was doing less classes during some terms or semesters to make sure I could basically go away on trips and things and not impact my study.
Yeah. And what was it like then, making the Olympics?
Oh, it was incredible. Like it was a dream come true. Being able to walk in the opening ceremony with um, hundreds of other Australian athletes that I'd watched on TV as a kid. They were like superheroes to me. So it was mind blowing walking side by side with my heroes.
Yeah, I bet it was. And you know what was when you made the Olympics? I'm trying to figure out the ages and timing here. Had you qualified to be a teacher? Did you have a class at this time?
Yes, I did. When I
Yeah,
was at the Olympics, I did have a class. I think I was what class would I have been teaching? Like a grade 3, 4, or 4, 5
yeah,
composite class I was
yeah,
teaching at the time.
yeah. So somewhere between 10 to 12 years old, or something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah. So I have to ask the obvious question, which I'm sure you get asked all the time. Did you have many discipline issues in your class?
Oh, there's always issues, that's for sure. No matter what
Yes.
teacher you are, you've always got issues with some kids. But look, they were all very good in comparison, I think, to a lot of other problems that there is out there. And they were young enough. I feel like the younger kids listen a lot better than the older kids.
Yes, I think that's true. They're certainly easier to get under control. My youngest is 10 years old, and so I can picture that age, and my
Yeah,
wife's a teacher as well. So um, I can imagine that classroom quite well.
yeah.
I'm interested then on we talk a lot about career transition and clarity, right? Um, whilst I'm perhaps less focused on the Olympic success or Olympic experience and what you achieved, I'm interested in sort of that next shift, or at least I think that's the next shift for you, which is moving from an amateur boxer to a professional boxer. And what did that mean in terms of teaching and sort of time commitments?
Well, that's where it all changed when I turned into the professional boxing ranks because in the professional boxing ranks I started getting paid. So it was getting paid for matches, and then I had sponsors jump on board to cover um, my work, right? I need to bring in some money to pay for either a house or rent or something, and it was their house at that stage, and yeah, they just enabled that to happen. So it became more about uh, I needed to earn money then from the sport somehow.
And what, you know, for you then, with a partner, with a house, um, what was the most difficult part of that leap, that change? And I'm thinking there's the financial side, there's then the performance side, isn't as an amateur, but it's in order to earn. It's did those friendship circles change? From your life, would you look at that point? What else had to shift?
Look, my friendship circle was pretty good. Like I had some really good friends I still kept from high school, and we all had the same kind of things that we're interested in. And the thing that I've been interested in, and I still am interested in it, is playing board games for entertainment, not going out and drinking and things like that and partying, but
Mhm.
just staying at home and playing a couple of board games with friends. That is a night. That's a good night out for me. Well, it's not even out. It's a good night in.
A good night in. What games do you like to play?
Oh, any really, but I like a lot of the social deduction kind of games, where you got to kind of like in poker, where you got to try and like suss people out and figure out if they're trying to manipulate you and win the game.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Fascinating. It's not really what I expected to hear, but I guess but that is so for you. There was a consistency in the social circle, moving from amateur, from a dual career athlete, which often is challenging in itself, career and teaching. So teaching and that
Hmm.
for you, and then it moving into the professional space, that social circle remained reasonably consistent. It sounds like,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah,
correct.
perhaps grounding you in some way as
Yes.
in that regard. And so for you, then, did it feel different getting into the ring as a professional than as an amateur?
Not really. Like, I guess I got really a lesson in my first professional boxing match that just how tough guys are. Like, I was a better boxer than the guy that I stepped into
Yeah,
first in the boxing ring, but I whacked him so many times with so many good shots, and he just stayed standing.
yeah,
And I was like, holy moly, these guys are tough. Like,
yeah,
that was the difference, is knowing how tough the pros can be.
yeah. The skill alone isn't often enough. There's a little bit more that's needed.
Exactly. If someone wants it more than you, they can grind you down. That's for sure.
Mm, yeah, and I guess you wanted it. How did to what extent did being a teacher or that teaching background help you with training or performance?
Ah, look, I guess the knowledge in like training wise a little bit. Not like overdoing yourself, but it's tricky. It didn't really kind of have too much overlap of using my teaching kind of knowledge in the boxing world.
Hmm. No, no, funny. But look, we'll come back to it. So then we've got this big transition shift from amateur or dual athlete and teacher. You put that to rest for a moment to start pursuing as a professional.
Hmm.
As you became a professional, the dream shifts from being an Olympian. Tick. What was the next dream?
The next dream was basically what Glenn said from the very beginning. So, as my mentor, he said, I'll get you to the Olympics in 4 years' time and make you a world champion 4 years' time after that. So, that was the goal from kind of the beginning, right? He had the vision, and
Yeah.
I just had to believe in it and go along for the ride, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Strap myself in and
Yeah.
work
And
hard to get there.
right. And so talk about that work hard, because that's a bold vision, and I'm someone who believes in that vision and that clarity, and that gave you a lot of certainty. How was that broken down for you, like you say, to strap in for the ride? How was that ride? To what extent was it described to you?
Look, I just had to do the work. Basically, it was a lot of work, a lot of training, a lot of discipline, eating right, yeah, sleeping. Sleep
Hmm.
was massive in sport, and luckily I didn't have like a full time job where I had to work 8 hours throughout the day and then go do boxing at night time. Um, for a while there, before teaching, I was doing childcare work, so early work in the morning, have a break throughout the middle of the day, then late afternoon shifts, and I could kind of rest in the middle of the day and then get ready to have a bigger night in training.
Hmm.
So it
Yeah.
just kind of worked out for me.
Yes. Yeah. It did. But I mean, you knuckled down. You followed the process. That hard work, that training, that really came through. And look, obviously the highlight. Well, actually, I said was obviously the highlight. Um, a highlight is becoming world champion.
100%, yeah.
What? How did it feel? What one? What if I talk us through the night? Talk us through that. One, who
Yeah.
you were beating. Two, what it meant to you.
Look, it was life changing from the first moment I heard that it was going to happen. Like when I get a phone call from my promoter to say, Manny Pacquiao wants to fight you in Brisbane, in my home state,
Yeah.
and you're going to be guaranteed $500,000. It's just like, holy crap! Of course I'm going to say yes to that. Like I was earning what 25 grand, maybe 20 grand a match before that, and then to go up to that kind of money, getting offered that type of thing, it was like this is a dream come true. I've hit the jackpot. It's like scratching a lotto ticket and going, I've won
Yeah.
already, right? I'm already a winner. But that wasn't the vision and that wasn't the goal, because the goal was never about money. And
Mhm.
if it was about money, then I probably wouldn't have won that match. So it was the goal of wanting to become a world boxing champion is what I needed to have. And I was like,
Yeah.
I'm going to beat this guy no matter what. I'm going to beat him.
Yes. And what changed in that run up to that fight for you?
What changed
What
in
you just mentioned that it was life,
I,
it was game
yeah,
changing.
look,
Yeah.
no, nothing changed. I was always working hard to
Mm.
beat all of my opponents. I treated all of them with that they were the best out there, and nothing changed with that world title fight. It was just a
Yeah.
long more rounds, right? It was
Mhm.
a 12 round war that I had to prepare for, which is I
Yeah.
knew was going to be difficult against a champion like Manny Pacquiao.
Absolutely. And look, it was a, a great fight. Well, at least I guess from outside the ring, one can say that it might have been a different experience for you.
Yeah,
Certainly in there, but definitely, you know, I perhaps, I was putting words in your mouth by calling that perhaps that night, that fight, the highlights. But I'll ask
yeah.
you, what do you see as the highlight of your professional career?
Look, you're probably right. Like that's the epic event that I got to have. I guess another highlight would have to be probably beating Anthony Mundine at the same stadium. Right, he was someone that I looked up to
Yeah.
kind of as an athlete. He
Hmm.
was he was a superstar. He was very good at what he did. Maybe spoke a little bit too much and said some wrong things sometimes, but he was
Hmm.
another highlight to go up and fight someone that I looked up to, like as an athlete for
Yeah.
so long.
Yeah. And so that in itself is another shift, right? From being the aspiring champion to being a champion.
Mhm.
And whilst your ethic and focus and treatment of the athletes remained the same, I'm guessing from an external perspective, the interest, the press, media intrusion. Um, how did any of that change in the way that you saw, well, in the way that you were able to live your life?
Yeah, that was crazy. That's something that I didn't kind of think about, the impact of what the media can be, and
Mhm.
I understand why some stars out there need security guards by their sides constantly just to fend off either people or paparazzi or whatever, because yeah, they're just superstars. And
Mhm.
I kind of felt like a superstar for a little while. There was a little period of time there that I was like, man, this is hard. Like you're giving so much of yourself all the time,
Yeah,
and like I would stand and take the photos, um,
yeah,
say hello, have the conversations with people, and it became it was exhausting.
yeah, yes,
Even though I'll do it all again, I'll do it all
yes,
again if I had to, and it was an amazing experience, but it can, like as I said, it's just a tiring experience if you are to give your time to everyone.
yes, yeah. Now, thinking ahead, I'd love to understand. Was there a specific point where you started to think about what retirement from being a professional boxer would look like?
Look, I never really thought about that. I guess I always had teaching to go back to. Um, and then when Bullyproof started, it was not. I don't know. I didn't think of that as like a job. I guess it was
Mhm.
something I love to do and as a passion kind of project. And
Yeah.
now that's what I get to do for a living, right? And now I'm a proud ambassador for Bullyproof Australia, where I get to go around and talk to school kids and share my story to them to hopefully inspire the next generation.
Mhm. Yes. So, so whilst you didn't really plan for Bulletproof to be that, your life after pro boxing, what thought? I mean, well, actually, maybe put it a different way. At what moment did you realize? Hold on, it's going to be time to hang up the gloves here.
Um, I knew that when I fell out of love for the sport. Really, I knew like training wise, I was super busy, so there was lots of things always happening, and I'd start forgetting things that I was had to do. So it meant like I was thinking, is it just me being useless because I'm not the best at kind of remembering things anyway? But
Yeah.
I felt like, is it because I'm getting punched in the head a lot? So I kind of like had that kind of in the back of my head,
Hmm.
um, and I don't know. It was just I don't know, like
Yeah.
multitude of things, the reasons of like I
Yeah.
don't. I had a goal. I had a goal to become a world boxing champion. I became a world boxing champion, but I didn't have any goals after that. So maybe I should have set a goal to become a unified world boxing champion or multiple weight division world boxing champion. But I'd
Mm.
achieved what I wanted to in the sport, and the love was basically disappearing pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yes. So, how did you make the decision to retire?
Um, how did I make the decision?
Yeah.
Look, I knew I had a lot of, I guess, when the bullyproof stuff kind of started picking up, and
Yeah.
I had a lot of like work to do there with the talks and things that I do. I was like, I think I've got to stop, because if I do continue and I do go too long, which some boxers do, and they became brain damaged or they
Mm.
talk and slur and all that type of stuff, I won't be able to do my job, what I want to do, and that's help kids, inspire them to be the best that they can be at something.
Yeah. And then, I mean, you've got those physical risks, that you talk about there. Uh, but there's also what I'm hearing is this: you started to get this sense of, well, what's next for you is inspiring others
Yeah.
to be their best, and you could see a way to do that, and perhaps leading, it, it your experience in schools, your experience as a school teacher, how to
Hmm.
engage children, or actually engage an audience.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm guessing that must have had an influence in that path that you've taken.
Yeah, definitely. Look, I knew at some point in time, like you start going, boxing's not going to be forever. I can't forever do this, and you need to have something that you're going to go back to, whether that was teaching or whether that was helping with what I'm doing now, and that's helping promote people to treat each other better is another thing.
Yes. I like that. You say to treat each other better, which is less about bullying and actually more about respecting others.
Exactly.
What?
That's the program. There's some core values to our program. They're respect, courage, integrity, and resilience.
Mm,
So to have those kind of aspects in your life and to have those about you, that
yeah.
you can be bully proof.
Yeah. Those actually sound, as you say, those they resonate with boxing. I guess some of the key tenets of someone who goes into a ring, about that respect and that courage.
Hmm.
Do you think, what aspects of those did you think you saw throughout your career, from courage, from respect, those
Yeah,
aspects?
look, I had respect for all my opponents and their abilities and what they could do. Always wouldn't badmouth or say nasty things normally in press conferences and things like that, because I just couldn't do it.
No.
Courage is being able to walk out there and put your body on the line. Basically, that's what you're doing. You're putting your body on the line all the time. So it takes courage to do that in front of an audience as well. Integrity is the being honest part, which um, that's kind of being honest with yourself, and that's doing the training that needs to be done. And
Hmm.
that's also trying to be honest with sponsors and be honest with people who are watching to show them that there's, I guess, another way, another way to do the sport.
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
resilience is just getting put through the tough times, right? There's always tough times no matter what you do in life, and resilience is just bouncing back from those things.
That's right. That's it. And look, you bounce back 18 times as an amateur boxer,
Hmm.
uh, to, to get to where I suppose, well, to get to a world champion, to
Hmm.
become an Olympian, to do those things, you had to go through those aspects.
Yeah.
So when you think then of, the bulletproof that aspect. I guess what inspired you to create that? So to sort of step into that space.
Look, it was a needed thing, right? There was kids taking their lives from bullying that was happening around the place. So something needed to change in schools to be able to save kids from doing this, and
Yeah.
we needed programs and people to upskill everyone in these in conflict resolution to be able to manage, I guess, saving lives.
And what inspired you to feel you had a role to play in that?
Because I went through it. I went through it. I had those dark days where I felt kind of suicidal when I was younger, and um, I don't want that to happen to anyone else or my children. And I couldn't think of anything worse for a parent to go through that with their children. So um, I just felt like something needed to happen.
Yeah, and you did it, and you have done that, and
Yeah,
so and look, and which again I think is great, and I think there's going to be those listening, watching who get this sense of both. So one probably, and this is really the idea of this Career Clarity podcast is one to get to inspire people to sort of follow a cause like yourself and support it, but another is for them to get this sense that something that they care deeply about, they can perhaps go and be a part of that solution. They
yeah.
too can have that courage to go and stand up and do something. I mean, for
That's what we're trying to create. We're trying to create people that aren't just bystanders that will watch bad things kind of happen to people. We want upstanders, people that will actually do something when they see something wrong happening. They'll go have the confidence in themselves to go, "Hey, I don't think that's the right thing to do. Can you stop?"
yeah, how does it feel when I guess when you get stories where people have told you how it's you know inspired them to act or mobilized them to act?
Yeah, oh yeah, it's amazing. It's an amazing feeling. Gives you goosebumps, really, to
Yeah,
think that you're changing lives out there and potentially. Well, I know we're saving lives as well, right? You're
yeah,
saving those. I know there's been kids that have been suicidal out there that have done our program and gone, man, this has changed me. Like, thank you. You gave me so. It's given me so much confidence.
yeah. Look, what's the first thing? If someone says they want to be an upstander, they want to go and make a difference for their and a cause that's something they believe in. And this is not just for athletes, but for others. What what's the first thing they should do?
Look, know your stuff. I guess. Be confident. And do the work in something so that you can confidently say that you know something. If you hear or see something that you don't think is right,
Yeah.
you've either studied it or figured it out or learnt it in some way or another, you can be confident to go, hey, and you can call it out or say that's not right.
Yes. So in some respects, don't be ignorant about this. If there's something that you believe in, then you don't have to have lived it, right?
Yeah,
If it's something that you believe in, learn, go, seek knowledge, understand what the issues are, perhaps what some of the challenges are, so that you can be a spokesperson or play some
100%.
kind of role.
Some of the best coaches out there are not players. They're not former players. So you don't need to be the best at something to know more about it than the people that are the best at it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely right. I always say, the sprinter coaches were not necessarily faster at the 100 meters than the 100-meter champions, but
Yeah,
they might know what it takes, and it's about that. Well, like you opened up with, it's about someone having perhaps a greater belief in you than you have in yourself.
100%.
So when just one more bit about that transition period. So when you think about retirement, when you retired and sort of moving into the ambassador role, what's been the hardest thing? What have you struggled with most from leaving the professional um, career behind you?
I guess being a sports person is way different to doing just normal work, right? Uh,
Yeah.
it's a change, and that's probably a big thing that athletes have to get used to is um, the change in their life of going to work.
Yes.
is in a different way, right? Their sport was their work, and now they've got to transition into actual work.
Yeah. Yes, very true. Well, how do you keep, or to what extent do you keep a connection to sport nowadays?
Look, I still am involved in the boxing. They'll occasionally call me up and ask me to go do some commentating. I go watch events. My brother's still doing it, so I've still got some involvement in the sport. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, look, there's last few questions really, but when you think about perhaps athletes in particular who are, um, I guess you've had an interesting career, the path that you've taken. When you think about athletes who may be inspired by you from an athletic perspective, what advice would you give to them about setting themselves up for life after sport?
Look, just to make sure that they don't put all their eggs in one basket. Sometimes you've got to have majority of your eggs in that basket, but know that injuries and life just happen sometimes, and if you put everything into that, it can be a depressing. I guess it can be a hard hole to dig yourself out of if you've got yourself into that. So just make sure that you've got a backup plan.
Yeah, that's right. That's it. And look, I often call that making sure you've got another plan A. So in
Hmm.
the same way that you loved teaching and really
Yeah,
had that connection, in the same way that you also had another plan of being a boxer, and both
yeah,
of those were, you know, energized you, helped you move
hmm,
forward, got you up in the morning. And I think that is
definitely.
fantastic, and that's great. And so, look, from Bullyproof, from what's next for you, and um, supporting individuals to to respect one another.
Yeah, exactly. I just keep doing what I'm doing and try and get this program in as many schools as possible so that it saves just one kid at a time or multiple kids at a time. So that's the plan.
That's great. And look, Jeff, we'll put your contact details in the show notes. But for
Yep.
those watching and listening, where's the best place to find you and get in touch?
Well, they can message me on my Facebook page, Instagram page, or they can email me at jeff@bullyproofaustralia.org.au. So there's a few places that they can contact me.
That's great. Look, Jeff, I want to say thanks so much for just sharing your journey, bringing a bit of your perspective to the audience today.
No worries. Thanks, Ryan.